was a stark contrast. A cacophony of was a stark contrast. A cacophony of clinking glasses, generic pop music, and the boisterous laughter of hundreds of marketing professionals letting off steam at the annual Tech Forward Summit. Among the throng, a woman named Sarah Jenkins stood with her back against a pillar, a half-empty glass of sparkling water in her hand. To the casual observer, she was forgettable. Dressed in a simple black sheath dress and sensible flats, her brown hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail, she could have been anyone's assistant, someone's +1, or a junior accountant who wandered into the wrong party. Her eyes, however, told a different story. They weren't glazed over with boredom or darting around in search of a familiar face. They were calm, assessing, cataloging every entry and exit point. Every security camera blind spot, every face that held a drink a little too long. Her earpiece, a nearly invisible flesh-colored bud, crackled softly. Phoenix to Watchtower, all quiet on the Western Front. The target is still in a deep discussion about cloud-based synergy with a woman who looks equally enthralled. The voice belonged to Marcus, her second in command, positioned near the main stage. Sarah didn't react. Didn't move a muscle in her face. She simply took a sip of her water. Copy, Phoenix. Watchtower has eyes on. Her own gaze remained fixed on a man near the bar. He was their primary, a high-value asset named Dr. Eris Thorne, a brilliant but notoriously paranoid physicist who had developed a new guidance system that several less-than-friendly nations would pay a fortune for. His paranoia, it turned out, was entirely justified. The problem wasn't foreign agents tonight. It was the man's own reckless ego. He had insisted on attending this public conference, and assured by his security detail that it was safe. Sarah's team, a crack squad of Navy SEALs, had been seconded to provide discreet, invisible cover. Her job, as the mission commander, was to be the ultimate unseen hand, the one who saw the whole board. For the past 4 hours, she and her team of 6 operators had blended in. Marcus, a mountain of a man, was posing as a bouncer. Diego, wiry and quick, was a catering assistant, refreshing canapes with a smile that hid his predator's focus. And Jones and Miller, the youngest two, were playing the roles of slightly drunk tech bros, laughing too loudly and occasionally stumbling. Reyes was a member of the hotel maintenance staff, loitering in the corridors with a toolbox, and Sarah, the linchpin, was the quiet woman by the pillar. It was a perfect, invisible net, and then the net was threatened by 3 drunk idiots. They weaved through the crowd, a trio of young men in expensive, ill-fitting suits, their faces flushed with the particular ruddy glow of premium bourbon and unchecked arrogance. They were the kind of men who confused conference swag with personal accomplishment and loudness with authority. They worked for some mid-tier software firm, and this was their one night to feel like kings. They spotted Sarah, and she represented the perfect target for their kind of cruelty. A woman alone, unremarkable, not part of any obvious group. The leader, a stocky man with a receding hairline he tried to hide with a severe side part, nudged his friends. "Check out Wallflower over there. Looks like she's waiting for her cat to die." They snickered, a wet, ugly sound. "Probably lost on her way to the coat check," another one chimed in. Encouraged by their own wit, they decided to make a game of it. They pushed through the crowd, drinks sloshing, and converged on Sarah. She saw them coming from 10 yards away, and she cataloged their threat level instantly. 0. Not assassins, not kidnappers, just pests. The kind of messy, unpredictable variable that was often harder to deal with than a trained operative because they operated without logic. "Hey there, beautiful," the leader slurred, planting himself directly in her line of sight. "You look a little lonely. What's a pretty thing like you doing all by yourself?" Sarah's eyes flicked past him for a second, checking on Thorne. He was still at the bar, ordering another drink. He was safe. She returned her gaze to the drunk man. "I'm not by myself," she said, her voice even, offering him a polite, dismissive smile. It was the smile of someone ending a conversation before it began. "I'm waiting for my colleagues." This was the wrong answer. In the drunk's calculus, any response other than fawning attention was an insult. He leaned in closer, his breath a noxious cloud of whiskey and bad decisions. "Colleagues? What? Are you a secretary here to take notes?" His friends roared with laughter. "Something like that," Sarah said, her voice still calm. In her earpiece, she heard the subtle shift. Marcus's voice was a low growl. "Watchtower, do we have a problem? Phoenix can be at your position in 10 seconds. "Negative, Phoenix," she sub-vocalized, not moving her lips. "Stand down. It's nothing." She trusted her team, but she also knew that Marcus appearing would escalate a non-situation into a spectacle, drawing the very attention they were there to avoid. But the men were just getting started. "No, no, don't be shy," the second one said, circling around to her side. "Tell us what you really do. Are you like a data entry specialist? A junior associate in charge of getting the coffee?" "My job title isn't relevant to this conversation," Sarah stated flatly. Her focus was now a tightrope. Maintain the primary's safety, manage these idiots, and keep her team from overreacting. It was a mental juggling act she'd been trained for. The leader's face twisted. Her lack of fear, her complete unflappability, was a direct challenge to his fragile ego. He wasn't used to being ignored. He wasn't a threat, not to her physically, but to the mission. His unpredictability was a live grenade. He could cause a scene, draw security, force a lockdown, and in that chaos, the real threat, the one watching from the shadows for an opportunity at Thorn, could strike. In a moment of drunken inspiration, he decided on a power move. "You know what happens to boring people at parties?" he announced loudly, turning to his friends for support. "They get a wake-up call." Before anyone could react, he grabbed his nearly full glass of amber liquid, a mix of whiskey and Coke, and with a grand, theatrical gesture tossed it in Sarah's face. The icy liquid hit her like a slap. It drenched her hair, ran into her eyes, and soaked the front of her black dress, leaving a spreading dark stain. A few nearby partygoers gasped and took a step back. For a split second, the world seemed to freeze. In her earpiece, all hell broke loose. "That's it! Phoenix is moving!" Marcus's voice was a blade. She could see him in her peripheral vision, starting to push through the crowd, his face a mask of cold fury. Diego had dropped a tray of glasses, his catering smile gone, replaced by the hard eyes of a killer. A stinging whiskey from her eyes. In that stinging whiskey from her eyes. In that same frozen moment, 3 things happened in her mind simultaneously. First, she confirmed Dr. Thorne was still at the bar, his back to the commotion, safe. Second, she calculated the new threat vectors. This scene was drawing eyes, and the greatest danger was now the distraction it caused, and creating a blind spot for her team. Third, she made a command decision. In a motion so fluid and natural it looked like she was simply brushing hair from her face, she raised her left hand to her ear. The movement was minute, but to her team, it was a thunderclap. It was the hand signal for abort. Hold positions. Stand down. Then, with her right hand, she calmly reached into the small clutch purse hanging from her shoulder. The 3 men watched, their drunken grins faltering, replaced by a flicker of confusion. What was she doing? Getting a tissue to wipe her face? Calling security? The leader opened his mouth to deliver another insult, another pathetic attempt at dominance. But the words never came. Sarah pulled out a slim, matte black tablet, no bigger than a paperback. She swiped it to life with her thumbprint. The screen glowed, displaying a secure, encrypted satellite feed. It showed a tactical map of the convention center, overlaid with 6 blinking blue dots. Her team. With a few deft taps, she opened a comm channel. Her voice, when she spoke, was no longer the quiet, dismissive tone of a moment ago. It was the cold, clear, utterly commanding voice of a military officer. It cut through the ambient noise like a laser. "Phoenix, this is Watchtower. Abort your advance. I repeat, abort and return to your primary coverage zone. Reyes, what's your status on the East Corridor?" She paused, I listening to the reply that only she could hear through her earpiece. "Copy that. Maintain. Miller, I need you to drift closer to the primary's 10 o'clock. There's a blind spot near the pillar by the service entrance. Jones, adjust your position to cover the primary's rear exit from the bar. Diego, status on the catering manager? Is he asking questions about the dropped tray?" She listened again. "Good. Smooth it over. We are black. I say again, we are black. And no one breaks cover." The entire exchange took perhaps 15 seconds. She issued orders, acknowledged reports, and re-established the tactical picture, all while a mixture of whiskey and soda dripped from her chin onto the tablet's screen. She didn't wipe it off. She didn't even seem to notice. The three drunk men stood frozen, their mouths slightly agape. The leader's face had gone through a rapid spectrum, from confusion to a flicker of unease, and then to a dawning, horrifying comprehension. The words they had just heard. "Phoenix, Watchtower, primary's 10 o'clock. Secure the perimeter." These weren't business terms. This wasn't the jargon of marketing or software sales. This was the language of operators, the cold, clipped efficiency, the complete disregard for the personal insult, the way her eyes, now clear and sharp despite the drink in them, didn't see them at all, but saw the room, the people, the threats. Now the friend to her right finally found his voice, but it was a cracked whisper. "What? What are you?" Sarah finally turned her full attention back to them. She didn't look angry. She didn't look triumphant. She looked at them the way a zookeeper might look at 3 chihuahuas who had yapped at an elephant. It was a look of mild, detached curiosity, tinged with a profound sense of their utter irrelevance. She tapped her tablet again, bringing up a different screen. "Yeah, my name is Lieutenant Commander Sarah Jenkins. I am the officer in command of a United States Navy SEAL task force." She gestured subtly with her chin towards a point across the room. "See that man at the bar? The one in the gray suit? He is a high-value defense asset under our protection. For the past 4 hours, my 6 operators and I have been running a covert security detail in this room to ensure no hostile force gets within 50 yards of him." She paused, and letting the information sink into their bourbon-soaked brains. The color had completely drained from the leader's face. He looked like he was about to be sick. His hands, which had so confidently thrown a drink moments ago, now trembled at his sides. "Now," Sarah continued, her voice dropping to a tone that was infinitely more terrifying than a shout, "you have just drawn the attention of every single one of my men. Our 3 over-entitled, intoxicated civilians is the only reason you are not now face down on this floor with a concussion and a federal charge of interfering with a government operation." The second man started stammering. We didn't know. We're so sorry. Please." Sarah held up a hand, and he fell silent instantly. "Your apology is irrelevant. What matters is the mission." She looked directly at the leader. You made a choice to assault a stranger to make yourself feel powerful. You were wrong about who I was. You were wrong about what I do. And you were spectacularly, life-changingly wrong about the consequences." She leaned in just a fraction of an inch. "But here's the thing. I don't have time for you. You are not my mission. So here's what's going to happen." She pointed towards the main doors. "You are going to turn around. You are going to walk directly to the exit. You are not going to speak to anyone. You are not going to look back. You are going to leave this building, and you are going to get in a cab, and you are going to go